Hello, Dom. Welcome to Entrepreneur Talks podcast run by Women Flix. I'm so excited and it's a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thanks for having me, Yola. Pleasure being on the show.
You're welcome. So to start straight away, tell me, where are you talking from?
I am talking to you today from the southwest of France. I'm located in a small town called Sarlat. That's Sarlat, that you can look up on Google Maps or on Google Images. It's a beautiful medieval town that has 9,000 people in the winter and 2.5 million tourists in the summer.
Oh, wow. What is the airport, the nearest airport?
On the west side, it would be Bordeaux. We're about 2 hours east of Bordeaux, and we're an hour and a half north of Toulouse. So we're like very much in the heartland of France, in the Dordogne department, which is actually very well known where you're from. We have a lot of Brits here that live here or that come to visit.
Yeah, I know. I do have friends that go houses in there. But what about Marseille? It's too far away because I've been in Marseille.
Yeah, Marseille is all the way southeast. So on the Riviera. That's probably by car. We're probably 5.5 hours away from Marseille.
Oh, okay. So it's coast. Oh, okay. Good. I've been in Marseille. I've been flying to there for a wedding, which I love it. But I've never been on that side where you are right now. But maybe one day. Thank you so much for letting me know. So sure. I'm in London, UK. So we're not far away, but we still we're not far away. We're different countries, by the way. So let's move to your story and to your journey. So in 3 words, who is Dom?
Oh, I'm half French, half German, but I consider myself Alsatian. It has nothing to do with a dog, although the dogs come from the same area. I was born and raised in the northeast of France in the Alsace-Lorraine region, which is the border region to Germany. Right. We're very, very particular. We have our own language. Our region was fought back and forth between France and Germany and changed hands 5 times between 1870 and 1944. At the age of 23, I moved to the US. I spent a quarter century in the US. And in 2018, moved back to France to open up and launch UNIQORN incubator. That's UNIQORN with a Q. And today we're basically providing an ecosystem that helps technology startups grow and thrive.
So I was about to ask you, what made you to move back to France to launch a startup incubator? So what is the UNIQORN incubator? What exactly do you do on this business?
So UNIQORN, first of all, the name itself, as you know, is a unicorn in the technology space is a company that has a value of 1 billion or more, which a lot of young entrepreneurs aspire to build, not necessarily because of the money, but because of the stature and of the impact of the startup. But it's also my last name in German, Einhorn. My last name means unicorn, so there's a dual play on that. And basically what we did, for those of you who are not familiar with what an incubator is, you can compare it to the incubators that we all know in the hospital environment. When a premature baby is born, it's usually too weak to survive on its own. That's the same for young startups, many young startups. So we provide them with an ecosystem, we nurture them along. We help them on with every facet of the business, including legal, accounting, business development, engineering, sales, marketing. And we make sure that number one, they survive. And if and when they do, we actually give them a platform to continue to grow and to thrive.
Right. And do you use this system, this incubator, for 2 weeks as well, or 2 months?
It's typically an incubator, depending on the level of maturity of a startup that comes to us. Right. They would typically spend 3 to 6 months within the incubator.
Okay.
Before moving on into the acceleration phase.
All right. And when you say you do help them, it's like a fund people can apply.
So it's a little bit of everything. So depending on what they have, obviously startups are different. We only do technology. And typically what happens is that when they come to us, we first make an assessment. We analyze their strengths and their weaknesses. We see if there is a fit with what we do internally. If there's a fit, there's not necessarily fit for them. If there's a fit for them, there's not necessarily fit for us. So we are very selective in terms of who we're bringing on, because it represents a significant investment, both in terms of money and time.
Right.
What makes us unique is the fact that I am personally invested in every deal that we decide to work with. So I'm usually first money in, or I'm part of the first investor group that backs that entity. Sometimes we actually register and form the entity even internally, because we've seen a number of startups that have not even thought about that next stage, but they already have, in some cases, a product or a service on the market, but they don't have a legal structure yet. So we help them actually build that legal structure, put together the shareholder agreements and things of that nature. And then it's more like check the boxes. You know, what do they currently have? What's missing? How strong is their management team? Is it strong enough to basically run the startup on their own, or do they need very key people in key places? Do they need an advisory board?
Right.
I very often come onto the advisory board as well, or some of my partners come onto the advisory board. I'm by definition a marketer. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. One of my lead partners is a finance guy who spent 25 years on Wall Street as an analyst. So we're very complementary, and very early on, when we actually do see if there's a fit with a startup that comes to us, we tried to go through some proper team building procedures with them as well. And basically teaching them that, look, if you intend to build a startup to ultimately scale your business, you have to think about what that team will look like today, not tomorrow. So you have to quickly start thinking beyond yourself, because if your business scales, there's no way you can do it on your own. You need to have a complementary team with complementary skill sets, and we do that very early on with them.
And so in that case, like, to make things more simple to my listeners and for me to understand more as well, when you come in as an investor and helping these startups, what exactly caught your eye? Because I want to understand. Let's say I want to apply. Okay, I need to apply, but I need to have certain things in my company, right? Like more than 5 people, or the owner is 2 or 3. Is some certain things that they need.
Yeah, so I get the question, and the answer. I'm going to try to make it very simple. You have to have a hook. That's the key term. So, don't come to us and say everything is perfect, everything is rosy, because no startup has that. If you tell me this, my question is going to be, then what do you need me for? If you got it all figured out, you don't need me. Have a nice day, right? Do it on your own. You have to have a certain level of honesty and authenticity. At the same time, you have to be able to show me that you actually have built something that has product market fit, or that has some early traction, something that intrigues us enough to say, this is something worth considering. So I'm going to give you a very concrete example. It doesn't have to be this way, but everybody should be able to understand it. Let's say you started developing a mobile app, and that mobile app could be B2C, could be B2B. It's basically trying to resolve a specific problem. And you come to me and say, Dom, we're stuck today. Here's what we've developed. We have quite a few people who already are using our product or our service, but we don't know how to take it any further. Right? That to me is intriguing, because you show that you already have a very basic client base. It could be a handful of people, it could be 1,000 downloads for an app, and you show a little bit of traction, but you're stuck because you've never actually scaled a product or service, whereas we have. Then what I will look at is, if there is indeed product market fit, if you indeed are providing a tangible solution to an existing problem, and then we can see if we can work together and help you scale that same process. I'm always coming back to very, very simple concepts like problems and solutions, because if you're an entrepreneur, unless you are tackling a real world problem, there's no point being in business, period. And what we're seeing very often today, including from people who come to us, is there is a certain breed of entrepreneurs that tend to create the problem they ultimately intend to resolve. And that's not a sustainable business model. There are plenty of real world problems that we're still facing as humankind that you can actually resolve. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. Identify a pain point, a friction point, and provide a way, a vehicle that alleviates that friction point via your business. And then we have something to talk about.
That's really good. That's really good. I was just thinking about, yeah, that was a simple and very straightforward answer. Thank you so much, Dom. Made me understand more, made me think about things we're doing. And okay, because sometimes, I'm going to be sincere, sometimes, I don't know why, but I believe, yes, because we are everywhere, companies are everywhere, and we receive emails from people saying they want to fund your project. And I'm looking to that email and I'm thinking, why this person should send me this? I believe like it's fraud, or maybe it's dodgy. It's not a real thing, because
So I got news for you. I get 200 or 300 of those a day, right? And I just hit delete as soon as they come in.
Yes.
Right. So there's more than an ulterior motive in there. There are some bona fide ones, but they're very, very rare. And a lot of them are just like offering you quote unquote free money, and we all know what that means.
Yeah, because you as a company on this kind of situation, this kind of business, you're not sending emails to people, right? To asking them if they want to be. They got a project, because I straight away think.
Yeah, everything for us is inbound. We get between 60 and 100 bona fide real decks from startups every single day.
Wow.
But it's funny what you mentioned, because we also triage very, very quickly, because we have no choice, because we're overwhelmed with submissions.
Wow.
So sometimes we have people who just attach a deck and send it to us blindly. I don't care how good that company is, but that's not the right approach. I don't even pay attention to that, because if you don't give me an ounce of respect, if you don't at least show me that you've analyzed who I am, what I do for a living, and what I typically follow, I'm going to give you the same answer in return, right? Then you have people who just blindly shotgun away, cut and paste the message on LinkedIn or via email. And if they call me, hey, John, and my name is Dom, we're already done. Next, right? This is not what I'm looking for. But then every day we do get some well-structured approaches, people who understand how you actually build relationships, who understand how they can actually get on your radar, because they've shown you this ounce of respect, and they've followed, they point to something very specific. For example, hey, Dom, I listened to your podcast on such and such when you mentioned this. Well, now I have context. Yeah. Now you're showing me that you're respecting me enough to at least have spent 5 minutes of your time listening to who I am and what I do. And all of a sudden you go to the top of the pile. Now I'm paying attention, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the same level of respect in return.
Totally. Yes, correct. So that means you got a podcast, right?
I do not, but I do. I'm on. We've been toying around. It's funny because I actually very recently set up a YouTube channel, but it only represents podcasts on which I was invited as a guest.
Okay.
That's the content. But they usually listen to, podcasts where I am a guest, like yours right now, and they point to something very specific that I said during that podcast.
All right, that's good. It's something that you can think about, Dom. You never know. You can start your own podcast as well, right?
Yeah. One more thing to add to the bucket list.
Is another thing. So, and now another question that is, thank you so much for this, but now regarding France. Why do you think like France is a perfect place to start up, to launch a tech startup these days?
Yeah. So if you'd asked me the same question 5 years ago in 2016, I would have told you unequivocally it's not the best place to start a business, any business, let alone a tech business. If you had asked me the question in 2017, 2018, I would have told you it's probably not the best yet, but it's significantly improved. And since you're asking me the question today, in 2021, I will tell you that unequivocally, it is definitely a top 5. Still not perfect, but quickly getting there. because you have a number of incentives. You have a burgeoning ecosystem that's been built in large parts by the government, by the regions. We have a very, very strong French tech label that's also internationalized. That makes it easy to bring foreign investment into tech startups into France. It makes it easy to recruit top talent within your organization, which is obviously paramount to the success of any technology startup. You have something that's called the Talent Passport Visa, which allows you to bring master's degree graduates or beyond very, very quickly, very efficiently inside your startup from anywhere in the world. You can sponsor them. They can come to France. We did it, for example, with two of our Panamanian engineers that I worked with for many years. When I moved back to France, within 48 hours, the kids were in school. Within 2 weeks, they had their visas, 4-year visa, renewable upon expiration. And the same thing actually applies to investors, which allows investors to participate in a French tech startup by way of investment and earn a 4-year visa for themselves and their immediate family, renewable upon expiration. And after year 5, they can apply to become a French citizen as well.
Wow, that sounds fast. Something
yeah, it's become very efficient, because if you ask 9 people out of 10 will tell you, well, you know, France, I've heard France is a lot of bureaucracy, et cetera, which to a certain degree is still true.
Right.
But thanks to the internet, thanks to some digital platforms, you're able to disintermediate some of these inefficiencies and basically work extremely efficiently from France. The infrastructure is bar none. Especially if you compare it to some emerging countries. It's a very well-established country, relatively safe compared to other countries as well. Top-notch engineering talent, because we have amazing engineering schools, so you don't necessarily have to recruit from the outside, but you can recruit from the inside. And long story short, 3.5 years later, if I had to do it over again, I would do exactly the same thing.
Wow, that's good. Because at the same time, this message, this explanation that you just brought up now, is not just for anyone that wants to go to France, but also the people that is in France. They can freely build something in there, and things will be moved.
Look, I mean, I'm the counter example. In 1993, I moved away from France to go to the US to launch my startup. Why? Because it was a nightmare starting anything in France back then. You had more obstacles than opportunities, right? You needed 56 pieces of paperwork just to start a business, right? So now you need 2 or 3, right? So I mean, it's 25, 28 years later now, right? So it's certainly evolved. But you know, I decided to actually do the opposite now. I actually came back, number one, because I always felt more European than American. Being half French, half German. And number 2, I think it's time to actually use some of what I've learned over the course of my career and offer it to other startup entrepreneurs. Usually what I tell them is, I cannot necessarily tell you what it is that you should be doing, but I can tell you with almost certainty what it is that you should not be doing, right? I don't have a crystal ball, no one does, but at the same time, you don't have to commit the same errors that I did, and I can help you grow a lot faster than if you do it on your own.
That's fantastic, and that's true by your experience. And when it comes to your incubes, the people that you help to start up, like the startups, what is the niche? What is age, in terms of age, or I believe is European, is in Europe, people in Europe, right?
But age, sex, creed, everything completely agnostic. We're currently about 30 people. And just the management side for UNIQORN from 19 different nationalities. Oh. So we're extremely diverse, majority of women versus men, which is not by design. It just happens, I think. If you're, look, at the very least, you're going to have a 50-50 ratio. I'm very politically incorrect. So when people tell me what it is that I should be doing, I immediately try to do the opposite, right? I don't think any of us should be forced or told to do something by people who have never done it themselves before, right? In particular, politicians. I think that if you actually are a true entrepreneur, you have to learn to think outside the box. And by definition, if someone puts you in a box, it's very difficult to think outside that box, right? What we did is we took a very iterative approach to team building. And we realized that no matter how smart your people are internally, there's always somebody smarter on the outside. That person can be white, black, green, yellow, I don't care, outside. That person can be white, black, green, yellow, I don't care. Can be a male, could be a female, could be transgender, I don't care. What I'm looking for is the best talent, because that's what's going to help me succeed. And that's exactly the same recipe we're instilling in all the startups that we're working with.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Don. Amazing, amazing. As I said, I was excited, and it's a pleasure to be here and have this conversation with you and help other entrepreneurs in the world to find more about this kind of projects, because it's a lot of entrepreneurs, like you mentioned, and I do mention as well, but they don't know these things. They don't have idea that they can get into a company and get some like support and show their idea. But actually, by this this thing that I just said, what do you think? How, if I would be an entrepreneur right now, and I want to start a business, and I'm looking for support, what should I go? Where should I go? What should I write on Google, example?
Okay, yeah, I think that's an excellent question, and I think there is a wealth of information that you can find that can actually guide you along the way prior to approaching someone like us. There are amazing tutorials on YouTube in particular. For example, type in best incubators in your specific space, because now incubators are no longer one size fits all. There are very specific incubators. Let's assume you're in the agri-tech, agricultural technology. You'll have very specific incubators for that are different than, let's say, fintech, financial technologies, AI. And we are more like a generalist in the tech space. We work with a number of these. And the reason why we work with a number of these is because we usually intervene at the commercialization level when it comes to actually time to market, customer acquisition, marketing. That's probably our strength, where we can help any of these businesses regardless of domain, because it is all driven by pure metrics, conversion metrics primarily, sizing up the market, analyzing where the customers congregate, and building a bridge between where they congregate to your specific startup, and helping them become clients on the acquisition side. But, a tremendous amount of startup information is out there. Some extremely good, some not so good. I would recommend that, for anybody in the tech space, for example, one of my daily reads is TechCrunch, which I've been reading for the last 15, 18 years. That's a Verizon US, it's a US blog owned today by Verizon, but very good content across various fields within the tech space. Not necessarily tutorial, but more news type of content. But even though it's news, it carries a lot of additional links to information resources. But you could spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours on YouTube, getting knowledge about, let's say, blockchain, decentralized finance, whatever it is you want to get involved in or are already involved in to become more proficient. And then, because I think unless you have this somewhat granular knowledge, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually make an educated decision as to which incubator you should be working with, right? You need to be armed with at least a minimal amount of knowledge to be dangerous enough to ask the right questions, right? And then you can actually approach certain people, and what you have learned will translate very well to who you're speaking with. Because when I get an educated question, I can tell this person knows, has at least a little bit of baggage, right? Has done some homework, and it becomes a lot easier to engage with them at that time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dom. Thank you once again.
Sure.
That's really helpful, because I didn't know, and as my listeners, they can learn, they can go straight away, either on YouTube or Google, and write incubators near you. So now my last question, we will finish very soon, is how can people connect with you and get more information about your work?
Sure. Easy on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Dom Einhorn. It's D-O-M as in Mary. Last name is E-I-N as in Nancy, H-O-R-N. The website is UNIQORN with a Q, unicornincubator.com.
Right.
My personal email is Dom, D-O-M, at unicornincubator.com. We're also on YouTube, on most of the social media channels, etc. But if you have a great project, the easiest way to engage with me is via LinkedIn, without a doubt. We also are hosting the Startup Super Cup, October 1, 2, and 3, which brings together over 1,000 angel investors, angel funds, the financial and the startup media, and between 100 and 120 startups in the digital space who will compete for a number of grand prizes. The grand prize will be a large incubation package at UNIQORN.
Sounds so amazing. Very, very good. Thank you so much once again, and I'm sure you will keep investing in small entrepreneurs, startups, and do the best for helping them to succeed in their future, in the near future. Thank you, Dom.
Thanks so much for having me, Yola.
You're
Pleasure
welcome.
meeting you.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.